Okay, so we're looking at question number 7. So this was on exponential functions again. So we've got this kind of like word problem, which I know seems a little scary. We're not so sure about the word problems. So it's saying a pond has 190 frogs, and the number of frogs in the pond is shrinking at a rate of 4% per month. All right, so again, just like some given information, 190 frogs in this pond, it's shrinking at a rate of 4% each month. Our goal for part A is to write an equation that models this situation in exponential function. So we've got our notes over here off to the side on exponential functions. So we know that our final equation, like our final answer, is going to be in that same format. So it's going to be f of x is equal to blank a times blank to the power of x, right? So just like with the table, like an xy table, we're still going to need to find that initial value, what our y-intercept would be, and then we're also still going to need to find the b value, which is that multiplication pattern, what's happening over time, what's our rate of growth. But also, because this is a percentage, we're like our second part of this is figuring out, is this decay or growth? All right, but let's start with the basics. Let's start with just part A, and then we'll come back to part B. So looking at part A, we want to know what is the initial value, what is the starting value, right? Like our y-intercept. If I'm playing this during class, I'll pause so you can take a minute to answer in the room chat. What do we think the initial value could be? What do we think? What are we starting with here? We'll pause. All right, so assuming we've said something in the room chat, or if you're watching this as a recording, maybe we're not sure, but we're looking back, rereading what was given. So this pond has 190 frogs. It's shrinking at this rate of 4% per month. So the starting value is 190, right? That's the very first value they're telling us. So that's what we're starting with. There's 190 frogs. And then from there, we have to figure out, is this decay or growth? All right. And then again, if this is played during class, you can message in the room chat. Do you have a prediction, decay or growth? And was there something that gave it away? How do you know that your answer is correct, right? So justify your reasoning. What do we think? Is this growth or decay, and why? Why do we think it is? We'll pause. All right, so assuming we've got our answers, or if this is you're just watching the recording, hopefully you can just pause the video thinking about that. So growth or decay, is it growing? Is it decreasing, decaying? We'd have to figure out some keywords here. And if you said it, yep, I agree. There's this keyword shrinking here. So shrinking at a rate of 4%. If something is shrinking, that is going to mean decay. It is dropping down, decreasing. So we're going to highlight decay. So then we know we're going to focus on decay. We're not going to write out a growth formula because it's not growing, it's decaying. Okay, so what does this kind of mean? So remember, decay, in order for our exponential function to decay, the b value needs to be between 0 and 1. Remember, it needs to be like a fraction or decimal that's between 0 and 1, right? So b still needs to be between 0 and 1. Growth is when b is larger than 1. But when we're having these percentages, there's that extra step we need to take now. First, we need to change the percent to a decimal, and then we're just going to plug it in. That's going to be our rate, r. So 4%, if we forgot from Cougar math skills, 4%, we take the decimal place and move it to the left, 2 place values. So this is really, 4% is 0.04 as a decimal. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take 1 minus that. So again, there's this calculator tool. If it will let me click on it. Let's see. This thing. Okay. So we're going to take, again, so 1 minus 0.04, and that's going to be 0.96. All right, so 0.96, and we'll go ahead and write that in. 0.96. All right, so again, we took that rate. It was 1 minus 0.04. That's how we got 0.96. Cool. We've got our equation. It is decay. It's a number between 0 and 1, right? Kind of like checking our work. And our initial value, starting value is 190. Cool. Part 2, we want to now know the number of frogs in the pond in 7 months. So we'd like to know, after 7 months of this population shrinkage, how many frogs can we expect to see in the pond? All right. So again, we're kind of asking ourselves, we're thinking, is this an X or Y value that they're giving us for 7 months? We have gone over this a couple times. Remember, independent versus dependent variable. Independent variable is X. It's just happening on its own. Dependent variable is Y. It's depending on X, right? Because it's depending on X, the variable X. So we're thinking months. All right, months is like time, right? Is time happening on its own, or is the month going to determine how many frogs are in the pond, right? So is time happening, and depending on the time is going to determine the frogs, or are the frogs just shrinking, and then depending on that, it's going to determine the months, right? That kind of sounds a little weird. So this is our independent variable, independent variable, which is X, right? So they're giving us X, we need to find Y. So F of, instead of X, we're replacing X with 7, so we're doing just some substitution here. Plugging in times 0.96 to the power of 7. And again, this is where that calculator comes really good and handy. We're gonna click on this button down here. And again, on your exam, you will have this calculator on your exam. You'll be able to do the same stuff. And again, for your exam at the end, when we take our screenshots, make sure you're including your calculator in your screenshots. Otherwise, right, I don't want us to get docked points. So if we're using the calculator, I want to make sure we're showing that in here. All right, so 0.96 to the power of 7 is that long number. We'll copy that. Okay, and now we're doing 190 times that number. So I just copied and pasted it. All right, so we'll get 142.7 fish or frogs. 0.7. We don't have 0.7 of an animal, right? So we're gonna round up to the whole number, the ones place value. So we're gonna say 143, about 143. 143 frogs. Because we have to have our units, 143 frogs, and we'll box. All right, so again, if this was an exam, we're including the screenshot with the calculator. So if it was not there, right? And again, from your numbers, it'll show you when you use the calculator. It'll highlight it for you so you can know, okay, I did do work in the calculator, and then take the screenshot. Then you would add this to Google Slides if this was your exam. All right, but that's how we do this problem. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. There is one more you can try on your own. If you click next, so you want to try this one on your own, you can go for it. But that's how we do question 7. All right, bye.